Okay, good evening, everybody. Bonjour tout le monde. Thank you very much for coming to this public information session on our upcoming master plan. Merci d'être venu aujourd'hui, ce soir, pour la présentation de notre plan d'urbanisme qui s'en vient. Alors, ce soir, on a passé des motions pour passer à la prochaine étape. On va avoir un vote la semaine prochaine sur le plan d'urbanisme. Tonight, we passed notices of motion to present the master plan. So now the master plan is now available online and in paper, and we're going to be going to a vote on May 11th here in council meeting, at the next council meeting. So I just want to thank the staff that's all here. I'm not going to name everybody, but I want to thank the council and the staff for all of the great work that's been done over the last couple of years to get us to this point. The master plan is over 20 years old. It dates back to to when we were part of the agglomeration. Alors, le plan d'urbanisme date de plus que 20 ans, et c'est le temps d'avoir un renouvellement de ce plan de développement, de plan d'urbanisme de la ville. C'est nécessaire pour avancer la ville. This master plan is a key element of advance the city. We're stuck in a system where we can't afford our infrastructure, we can't afford all of the things that the city needs, because we're stuck with a tax base of residential and commercial as it stands. Our commerces are suffering, and part of the development is to redevelop the Cavendish Mall, the Carey Square, as well as Saint-Luc Mall and Caldwell, as well as other developments throughout the city. These additional developments are going to be key to revitalize our centers our commercial centers, as well as bring in affordable housing, homes that are available and affordable for young families, as well as keeping our commerce. And that's a key element. We're keeping the commerce that's available in the city. Alors on garde les commerces, les business qui sont dans la ville, on va les garder, mais aussi on va augmenter la capacité pour des jeunes familles d'habiter à Côte-Saint-Luc avec des maisons qui sont plus abordables. So over the last 3 years, there's been over 20 public consultations. There's been over 3,000 people that have been individually spoken to with community groups. We've done a lot of public consultation, a lot of information sessions. We've met with consultants, and we've actually offered the public to meet with the consultants as well. And we've done traffic studies. The individual developers have done traffic studies, and we've done our own. We're going to be presenting our traffic studies tonight so that at least the public understands, because it's one of the biggest concerns, is what's going to happen with traffic. Now, I'll let the consultants speak to that. The reality is there's going to be more traffic. There's going to be, inevitably, there's going to be more vehicles. That's just the nature of the world. You have more homes, you're going to have more development. But it's not going to be detrimental. Now, we'll see the actual data. Now, again, the reality is we need to develop a city. It's a key element to be able to have an affordable city, to have a city that's going to thrive and not be based just on the existing tax base. Alors, c'est important qu'on réalise qu'il va y avoir des changements. Avec l'évolution, il y a toujours des changements. Il va y avoir plus de trafic dans certaines périodes de temps, dans certains endroits. C'est la nature du développement. Et le consultant ce soir va y présenter. Now, I'm doing my thing in French and in English. Most of the presentations, for simplicity's sake, will be done in English, but there will be French available. If you have any particular questions, please raise your hand at the question period, and we're going to have an opportunity to discuss. This is an information session. I'm looking forward to exchanging and hearing from the residents. The vote is next week. We have all week to discuss and to hear your concerns, and I'm looking forward to meeting with any group that's interested in discussing. And on that, I'm not going to belabor the point, but I will introduce Tanya Abramovich, who's going to be presenting the master plan. She's our Chief Strategy and Transformation Director, and I appreciate the work that she's done over the last number of years in getting us to this point. We have our Director of Engineering and Urban Planning, Charles Senecal, as well as our Manager of Urban Planning, Andy Vu, and our consultant, Rushdie, je m'excuse le dernier nom, je m'excuse. We're going to go with Rushdie. So Rushdie is our special consultant in traffic, and he's done a study on the 3 large developments to essentially explain to the public what the changes are going to bring. The existing structures, existing installations of our commerce brings in a certain amount of traffic. If those stay as is, there's going to be, if the developers decide to bring in a Costco, for example, at the Carey Square, I'm just throwing that as an example. And they would have every right to, because it's a commercial establishment. If they bring in a Costco, I don't know if anyone here has been to a Costco on a Sunday morning. It's mayhem, right? So if we again develop it in a way that's smart, in a way that serves the city with the right entrances and the right exits, the right traffic configurations, we can minimize the amount of traffic. We're also limiting the amount of parking required for each building. And I'll let the directors get into that, but the limitations on the amount of cars that can access the site is also going to be a key element to making sure that we have a manageable traffic situation. So I won't get into all the details, and I'll let the presentation start. And again, we're going to have an opportunity to hear your concerns, and I'm looking forward to an open discussion. Merci et bonsoir. Thank you.
Bonsoir. Hello. So as human beings, we have aspirations. We have aspirations for ourselves, for our families, for our communities. You live in Côte-Saint-Luc because it is the place in which you feel you can successfully achieve those aspirations. Vous vivez à Côte-Saint-Luc parce que c'est l'endroit où vous estimez pouvoir réaliser vos aspirations avec succès. Tonight we're talking about the master plan and the bylaws that bring it to life. Ce soir, nous parlons du plan d'urbanisme. The master plan is, first and foremost, an aspirational document, an expression of a vision, future. It comes along once a generation, reflecting where the city and its people are at, and where they want and need to go. We have been working with you, our residents, listening to you, consulting with you for the past 4 years, so that we at the City of Côte-Saint-Luc, who are merely stewards here, can finally bring your aspirations as a community to life. Depuis 4 ans, nous travaillons avec vous, nous vous écoutons et vous consultons afin que nous, à la Ville de Côte-Saint-Luc, puissions enfin donner à vie vos aspirations en tant que communauté. The current master plan, planning program is the proper name for it in English, is over 20 years old and never fully reflected the vision of Côte-Saint-Lucers in the first place, as it was created by and for a borough that doesn't even exist anymore, which you didn't want to be part of from the get-go. You, as people, would not base much in your life on plans over 2 decades old, and yet that is what is happening. Le plan d'urbanisme actuel est désuet. As tax-paying residents, you would expect that the City of Côte-Saint-Luc would evolve, build up resilience, be responsible, help you thrive in today's world. Would you not? En tant que payeur de taxes municipaux, vous vous attendez à ce que la ville de Côte-Saint-Luc évolue, renforce sa résilience, agisse de manière responsable et vous aide à prospérer dans un monde d'aujourd'hui, n'est-ce pas? Avec ce plan, c'est exactement ce que nous cherchons à faire. Tonight, Monday, May 4th, 2026, we are having this information session related to the master plan and everything surrounding it. This session is also live online and will be recorded for those who couldn't join us tonight. Ce soir, le lundi 4 mai 2026, nous tenons cette séance d'information portant sur le plan d'urbanisme et tout qui l'entoure. Cette séance est également diffusée en direct en ligne et sera enregistrée pour ceux et celles qui ne sont pas pu nous joindre à nous ce soir. We are coming to the end of a long journey together, and we want to end it like we started it, exchanging with you, our public. My promise to you is that by the end of this session, you will have learned the status of a project and how we arrived at this point. You'll know the results of the independent traffic studies that the city commissioned. You'll be aware of the changes to the master plan and zoning bylaw since the first adoption on November 20th, 2024, and then you'll know the legal timeline for the next steps. Ma promesse envers vous ce soir est que, d'ici la fin de séance, vous aurez pris connaissance de l'état d'avancement du projet et de cheminement qui nous a menés à cet état. Vous connaîtrez les résultats des études de circulation indépendantes commandées par la Ville. vous serez informé des modifications apportées au plan d'urbanisme et au règlement de zonage depuis leur adoption le 20 novembre 2024. Vous connaîtrez l'échéancier juridique des prochaines étapes. There will, of course, be opportunities to ask questions, and the session is slated to close around 9. We'll try to keep up with that. So I want to make sure we're all on the same page here in case you're A, hearing about this for the first time, or if you need a little refresher, since we haven't actually talked about this for a while. So every city in Quebec is legally required to have an updated master plan. Our plan must conform with the Schéma d'aménagement urbain for the Montreal agglomeration, which in turn has to conform to the PMAD, which is the CMM's Plan métropolitain d'aménagement et de développement. That has to conform with the Quebec orientations that are in the what's called the OGAT, les orientations gouvernementales en aménagement du territoire. So as you can see, there's sort of a cascading series that we have to follow, and every single one has to have what's called concordance with the plan above it. So a master plan describes the geography and demographics of a city, then outlines its future development, touching on a range of topics including housing, mobility, green and public spaces, basically whatever has to do with the physical landscape of an entire city and how it's used is what this document governs. While the master plan provides orientations and a direction, other urban planning bylaws get into the details and interpret them and explain how to apply them. So you have the zoning bylaw, which we'll discuss a bit tonight, outlines what we can build, where, how big, how high, and for what. Les règles encadrant l'esthétique, l'intégration et les matériaux de sites et des bâtiments sont couverts par le règlement relatif au PIIA, which is called the SPAIP in English, the Site Planning and Architectural Integration Program. The Permits and Certificates bylaw tells you what you need permission for from the city and how to get one. The subdivision bylaw, lotissement en français, talks about lots and lot division. The building bylaw, construction en français, governs the construction, site management, and proper building. Frequently, the master plan and all these bylaws are adopted on the same night, as will be the case in Côte-Saint-Luc next week. The upcoming master plan truly brings Côte-Saint-Luc into a new era while preserving the essence of what makes Côte-Saint-Luc Côte-Saint-Luc. This is in part to do with the amazing opportunity that the three developments represent, but also has rules relating to existing homes on our territory. I've been part of the Planning Advisory Committee for years, and literally we are seeing many, many people redoing their homes. People's needs have changed since many of the houses in Côte-Saint-Luc were built 50, 60, 70 years ago. And our bylaws, our new bylaws, support that evolution. Les besoins de la population ont évolué depuis la construction de nombreuses maisons à Côte-Saint-Luc il y a 50, 60, 70 ans, et nos nouveaux règlements reflètent et soutiennent cette évolution. How do we know about these needs? We asked you. Before we drafted a word of the master plan, we did a year of public consultations that we called the pre-consultations, which had a variety of activities that more than 2,000 people participated in. And this is really incredible. This is like on par with greater City of Montreal numbers, and shows how much our residents care about this community. You even sitting here just reinforces that. We worked with consultants from the firm BC2 to help create the documents over the course of almost 2 years. And then the first draft of the master plan and bylaws were adopted by the then City Council in November 2024. After the adoption, we conducted the legally required public consultation, which allowed residents to give feedback on the document itself. We also conducted more district-specific consultations to ensure that neighborhood interests and concerns were understood. We have never consulted our residents more for any project in the history of Côte-Saint-Luc. As you can see on this slide, without having to look at any of the actual words, we held 32 separate events for the master plan over 3 years, giving ample opportunity for your voices to be heard. Nous n'avons jamais consulté nos résidents autant que pour ce projet dans toute l'histoire de Côte-Saint-Luc. Comme vous pouvez le voir sur cette diapositive, nous avons tenu 32 activités distinctes liées au plan d'urbanisme sur une période de 3 ans, offrant ainsi de nombreuses occasions pour que vos voix soient entendues. If you want to catch up, view the recordings of some pre or post-adoption consultations, or read any of the summary reports about them, I encourage you to go to cotesaintluc.org/engage in the master plan section. or côte-saint-luc.org/contribuer en français. You can find all the latest news on this project, all the past documentation, everything. Because we heard that traffic was a major concern to many, we conducted independent traffic studies examining the current and projected impacts of the 3 big mall redevelopment sites. Internally, so this is what we've done with the documents in addition to that, we did a lot of fine-tuning and revising of the master plan and all the bylaws for their final versions. And these were based on several factors: public feedback and feedback from developers, the need for clarification, sometimes by adding diagrams or changing wording a bit, the correction of errors, mostly between English and French versions, but also, for whatever reason, some things from our current bylaw that we wanted to retain were not in the one we adopted in November, so we put them back. Il y avait aussi la rétroaction de l'agglomération afin de s'assurer que nous sommes en concordance avec le schéma. They made us change a few things. Le résultat des études de circulation et les nouvelles orientations découlant de l'élection de nouveaux maires et de nouveaux conseils municipaux. So going back to our promises for tonight, our 4 promises, you have now learned how we've gotten here tonight. Now we're going to move on to the second promise, which was to inform you about the traffic study results. And for that, I'll call upon the Urban Development Director, Charles Senecal, and our independent consultant from IGF Axiom to discuss that. So, the screen go. Just unplug.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the intro. As Tanya sort of aptly described tonight, we're looking at sort of 2 parts of this process. And just a reminder, I'm the Director of Urban Planning and Engineering for the city. The 2 parts of this process we're focusing on tonight is A, the traffic studies that we commissioned, which we'll get to in a second, and then my colleague, Mr. Vu, will be running through some of the salient changes that the city has elected to make to its zoning bylaw between the first draft public consultation and where we are today. Last year, our engineering department launched a tender, a public tender, and Rushdi's firm, IGF, happened to win the bid. And this particular study that we commissioned, which Rushdi will be presenting tonight, is focused on the 3 major shopping mall sites in our city. And the mandate was very, very simple and specific in that today, as we know, there's only commercial use on these various lots. And in our sort of vision for redevelopment, the city wants to add a residential component. Now, in each and every case, there's a reduction in commercial space as well as office space. However, as I said, we're adding a residential component, which in and itself will bring a certain type of traffic, a different type of traffic. So we hired a firm to analyze what we think the future impact will be on existing traffic once these sites are redeveloped. And it's important to note, though, this redev will be over a long period of time. So the impact will not be felt in any way, shape, or form immediately, but over a 10 to 15-year period. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Rushdi to do his presentation. Following his presentation, which will be roughly 30 minutes, 30 slides, you're welcome to ask your questions, pose your questions to him in both English or French, whatever your preference is. So, Rushdi, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me today. Night here. On? Can you hear me now? Yeah, correct? Pardon? One micro? Can I take it? Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, okay. So as Charles said, tonight I'm going to present you the 3 traffic study about the 3 malls that we have in Côte-Saint-Luc. So it's the Carry Square, Cavendish Mall, and Côte-Saint-Luc Mall. Okay. We did in the future how is going to be the traffic in this area. Okay. So the first slide is showing you the Carry Square Mall. Is located near Highway and Vezina Street. There is 4 traffic lights in this area, as you can see, and you probably know that there is a lot of traffic in the morning in this location, mostly because of the Decari Highway and Decari Boulevard. Not related really for the mall or the local transit. So we did some traffic counts in 2025 in March. So we count all the traffic entering the mall at all the entrances, and also we did count also all the cars that are going out from the mall. So you can see here there is a summary showing you how many cars was entering in the morning, during the PM peak period, and also the weekend. In green you have the data from 2018 that we had previously, and in black the new counts that we count in 2025. So you can see it's quite similar in terms of numbers, except for the PM period where you have more cars going inside the mall. So for the PM period, we did the same exercise, and also we have the data from 2018 and 2025. So you can see that the PM peak period is the most busiest period of the day because people are going to the mall. In the morning, the mall is closed, so there's less traffic also. So for the future redevelopment of the site, it's projected to have 1668 housing units on the site and one hotel, sorry.
It's not clear what you said. How many did you say?
1668, donc 1600 units on the site.
1,600.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for the Decari Square. There will be more housing units and less offices and less commercial space.
How many condos?
Okay. So you can see in this chart the numbers of units that you have. So you have the summary, the number of middle density units.
I can't see it. Cannot see that.
So, okay, and I understand.
We're going to get into all the questions after. I understand that this particular slide is not, you can't see the details. About 1,600 units will be available within the context of the Decari Square. That's the only real number that we need to see on that. The number of buildings is going to come in the rest of the presentation. We are going to talk about volumes. This is just about the traffic study.
Yeah,
How many units? Some of the units are going to be townhouses homes. Some of them are going to be single-family homes. Some are going to be condos and apartments. We're going to have
we use these numbers only to project the future numbers of cars that will be going in and out from the future complex. This will be about maybe 10 years development. This will be not like the first day you have 1,600 units. So this chart is showing how many cars will be going out and in from the future development compared to the existing situation. For example, in the morning you have 268 here that going out of the mall, and currently it's 295. And for the PM period, for example, you have 700 cars going in compared to 450 today. So it's an increase of cars, but not that much. Compared to, because you will have more residential units, but less offices and less businesses. So we did also, because when we generate traffic for a new development, we use different methods. So we can use also data from the statistics of Quebec, for example. We know that there is 2.3 person per household. There is also 1 or 2 cars per household. So with that, we can generate the numbers of cars that will be on the site in the future. So this slide is showing you the layout of the future project as is planned now. So the access will remain quite similar to today, but we recommend, for example, that the access near the Coronation Street will be relocated to be able to improve the traffic.
You mentioned Coronation Street?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Coronat, sorry, Coronat. I'm confusing with the other, sorry. Yeah. So to improve the traffic, we recommend to relocate this access to the west of the site. This will improve the traffic on Vezina Street because when you have 2 traffic lights very close, they don't function correctly. So it's better to have it separate. The much possible we can do to improve the traffic. So the project is feasible. So over the time, it will be planned and staged to build the different units over the time, because there will be phases when they will be deconstruction the existing site, and then building by phases the new project. There will be some improvement for the traffic, as I said before, and also, for example, on Vezina Street that belongs to the City of Montreal, there is only 1 lane today to drive on it. They could be added 2 lanes, so it will improve the traffic. And also, there's some mitigation that can be done also in the future to improve the traffic. So for the next development, Cavendish Mall, you can see here the location of the site. It's just in front of us here on Cavendish Boulevard. There are 2 main traffic lights that are giving access to the site from Michael and the avenue. And also you have 1 access on right in, right out on the, you can see here, you can try to here. This location, you have another access here that you can enter only on right and exit on the right turn. So we did the same exercise as the Carey Square Mall. So we count all the traffic going in and out from the mall in the morning, at noon, and also PM peak hour. And we did it also during the weekend to get all the traffic data from the site. So you can see in this chart that in the morning, you have 258 cars going in, at noon 400, and PM 430 cars going inside the mall. And so we did, because we did different count, different days, it's similar every day. And also the weekend is quite similar. You have less cars during the weekend, but more cars during the weekday. Sorry. So this is the same exercise for the cars going out from the site. So we did also the traffic count during 2 days of the week and 1 day of the weekend. This slide shows you the future layout of the site. Yes, madam?
I just want to know if this is going to be available online with your
So-
slides.
Yes.
Thank you.
And also, whenever you ask questions from the audience like this, the online viewers, which are as numerous as you, cannot hear anything. So yes, in answer to your question. Go ahead, Rushdie.
Okay, thank you. So you can see here on the map that the site will have similar access as today. So the main access will be on Cavendish Boulevard to be able to avoid the Michael and the Avenue. So you will to focus all the traffic on Cavendish and not on the secondary streets. So for this site, you'll be also 1,800 units planned here, so similar to the Carey Square, with also less business area, 42% less business area, and also 156% increase of office space. That is what is planned today. So we did the same exercise also to generate the traffic that will be generated from this mall. And you can compare it with the existing and also the future. So there will be an increase of traffic, of cars going in and out in the morning and also in the evening. And when we do these studies, we also do traffic simulations to know what are the conditions of the traffic today, and we compare them to the future. So for example, as you know, when you are at the peak hour, usually you feel that you need to wait one traffic cycle before going through the intersection. That's the level of service D. That's the normal level of service of any intersection in a city during peak hours, in the morning or in the evening. So there's a level of service A, B, C, which is good. And then D, it's the normal behavior when you have traffic in an intersection. And then you have a level of service E or F. F is bad. So with this study, we have in the future similar traffic condition that the existing. Some movement, for example, some left turns, they can have level of service F or E, but that during peak hours. Vezina Street, for example, is another story because the traffic is not because of Vezina Street or the mall, it's because of the Carry Boulevard. That is causing the traffic, not really the Vezina or the mall. So here we also did the same exercise to compare the traffic generated by our study with the statistics of Quebec, where we have also the same numbers as I showed you before regarding. Je ne suis pas habitué par le micro, donc je suis désolé. I'm sorry. Okay. You hear me now? Yeah, it's okay. Okay, fine. So, to improve the access to the future mall, what we recommend is to have a new traffic light on Cavendish Boulevard in front of the existing access here. Sorry, I'm gonna put it here. At this location. So currently is the in and out only right turn. So in the future we will recommend to have a full traffic light so we can access from the turning left from the south, or when you go out from the mall you can go north also. So this will improve the traffic light also for Maple here and also the avenue here. So this will be the main improvement for this location to improve the traffic. Of course, we can work also on the other traffic lights at the south of this location to improve the efficiency of them, to have more capacity in the future. This is showing you an example of the possible configuration of the new intersection at the center entrance of the mall in the future. So this project can be developed gradually and in phases, and it will not cause any major traffic issue on Cavendish Boulevard.
We'll have a question period after. Let him finish his presentation and we'll have just questions about traffic.
Can you enlarge the slide so we can read it? It's ridiculous. We're in the second row.
Here is the max. I have it max on my screen, but I don't know.
So as I said, it will be available after. We can't enlarge it.
No?
But we'll put it online on the Engage website.
So I continue with the third mall, Côte Saint-Luc Mall. As you know, it's located on Chemin Côte Saint-Luc. So they have two main axes in front of Coronation Street and St. Ignatius also. This location, there's no really traffic, AM or PM. It's more there is more road capacity than the other two malls. In the morning, the main traffic is caused by the restaurant here in this location. I think it's a McDonald's that's causing a lot of traffic in and out, not the mall, and also during the PM period too. So we did the same type of surveys to have all the traffic in the morning, noon, and PM peak periods to be able to know how many cars we have today and how many cars we will have in the future, so to be able to compare them and to get the traffic condition of all the intersection at this location. Currently, the level of service is between A and C, which is very good, and in the future it will remain the same. Here you have the numbers of the cars entering in the morning to the mall. We did, as you can see here, that we did 3 days surveys, and we have also data from 2021. As you can see, there were higher cars entering the mall in 2021 during the PM peak period here than the 2025, which is quite difficult to understand, but this is the survey that we had. Probably people were using more the mall during the pandemic than today. So the same thing, we did it for the cars going out from the mall. So we did the same, as you can see here, there's less cars going out in 2021 from the mall in the peak period, and you have more in 2025, as you can see here, 500 cars, or here 500, 500 and almost 600 cars. Mostly 40 to 45% of these cars are caused by the restaurant, not directly the mall. But there's a lot of cars, but there is no traffic or during the PM or AM period. So this is the future layout of the mall. What is planned currently. There will be 1,700 units, so less than the other two malls. Less also business area, and there will be no offices. So the same chart as the two other mall. So we did traffic generation to be able to know how many cars will be using the future site in the future. Sometimes it looks a lot of cars, but when you divide them, it's 1 hour. So when you divide them per minute, it's less than you expect. So the same chart as we used before to compare the traffic generated by the project. So the main recommendation for this site is to relocate, because they plan to have an access in the middle of the site, and we recommend to move the main access to the mall to the existing location when you have the restaurant. So this is to to have a bigger distance between two traffic lights to improve the efficiency of the Côte Saint-Luc corridor. So again, this site do not show any issue in the future for the traffic condition. It can be done by stages as the two other ones. And we didn't find any major issue there. For sure, there is something to be corrected currently, some traffic signs that should be modified, improve the traffic lights efficiency. But globally, the tree site can be developed without any issue. Okay. This concludes my presentation.
Okay, so how we're going to run the question period, we have a microphone in the middle. If you have a question, please come up to the microphone so the people online can hear and that the room can hear your question. These are all traffic-specific questions. We will have another question period at the end of the whole presentation, but just for questions for our consultant while he's standing up there, if you have traffic questions, now is the time to ask at the podium.
As a reminder, we gave out numbers before.
Okay.
If we can go by the numbers. If anybody would like a number, raise your hand. I'll come give you a number. That way you don't have to stand in line. All right, who has number 1? Do you have a question? Would you like to get started?
I'm sorry, a lot of it was hard to see and didn't hear. Listen, I live on McDonald and Vizina. I'm out many different times during the day. I could never, I have been to Royal Mount once. Why? Because I can't even get off of Vizina to turn onto a service road. This is at 1 o'clock. 1:30, 2. I don't even try to get across the carry. I just actually turn around and go find somewhere in Côte Saint-Luc to go shopping. This is ridiculous. You're going to put up all these buildings. I don't hear you. You have not mentioned one road. Are you planning to extend any roads like Clanranald into Walmart? What happened to Cavendish for 50 years? Like,
I appreciate the question.
okay.
It's just on the traffic study itself. Are there any particular questions?
Well, I'm asking you when you did this study, what time?
I can
3
respond to the
o'clock
first
in the
question.
morning? I mean, it's
Can you repeat the
ridiculous.
question?
traffic every day is.
David, no one can hear you when you speak from the audience.
And the second question is about traffic. Where are you getting all these people to come into all these buildings?
So for your first question, you're right. This traffic that you're talking about is not correctly programmed, because you have two one-ways coming on each side, and you would never be able to turn. That's why we recommend in the future to have the main access to the mall at the other location. That will improve drastically the efficiency of the corridor. And on Vezina Street, that belongs to City of Montreal, of course, they should, or they must, I don't know, put 2 lanes in the morning peak hours, because you have 1 lane, you have a lot of cars that park it there that blocking the efficiency of the other traffic lights.
We tried that several times. We tried it to turn on Côte St. Catherine. I got a ticket. He stands there every morning. I remember working at the Jewish, and I got a ticket for $126 just by trying to do a double turn. Anyway, we've tried, and they've never changed anything. Anyway, the traffic is horrendous, and I don't see your 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, but you can't even get onto the service road, let alone the expressway, let alone trying to cross off of Vizina. I mean, you need roads. This community needs to deal with roads, and they promised and promised, and so far, nothing has happened.
Sharon,
I'm leaving.
other people have questions. Thank you.
Number 2 or number 3? You can step up, or number 4. All right.
My name is Myrna Housefather, and I live on Mark Chagall. I had lived
on Finchley for 35 years. I concur what Sharon says. Whether you did the study or not, it is totally inaccurate. It is totally impossible for traffic to move in that direction. Now that I live in Côte-Saint-Luc, if I go at certain times, it's a nightmare to get to Décarie. If I have to go to a doctor, I have to leave an hour and 20 minutes early for something that should take 15 minutes. So adding traffic does not make sense. Secondly, you're on a wish list that the City of Montreal is going to make changes. Perhaps for Cavendish Mall, Côte-Saint-Luc can make some changes. Montreal is not going to run to your beck and call. Sorry. It's not their land, it's your land now, and they're not going to help you. Thirdly, when you have townhouses and single houses being constructed, plan on 2 to 3 cars per house, please, not one. It's not a senior residence that you're building if you're going to have single homes and townhouses. It's younger couples, they're going to have teenagers that have cars, and they're each going to have a car. So your statistics is inaccurate. So I really would like you to reevaluate what you have proposed, because I have lived in Côte-Saint-Luc and I have lived in Hampstead, and your traffic surveys are not accurate.
Thank you.
So I'll answer a couple of things. So one of them is the old administration of Montreal was not cooperating with us ever. The new one shows ouverture because they've changed. It's already better than it was before. In terms of what we're building, there aren't, except for townhouses in one small area of Cavendish Mall, we don't have zoning for low-density housing in the new developments. There are townhouses, but there aren't single-family dwellings detached. Townhouses are single-family dwellings, but they're attached. So there aren't so many, just to say.
But the average ownership of cars in Quebec is 2.35 cars per household. So you can have a family that have 4, another one has 0, another one has 1. So this is the average. No, but this is the average of Quebec. It's that these numbers are factuals.
We're talking Côte-Saint-Luc.
Yeah, but Côte-Saint-Luc is on these stats also. But you're right. People will have 4 cars, others will have 2. So that's how it works. But when we do our surveys, we use these numbers, and the other numbers are from existing urban areas where they have condos. Okay. Thank you.
So, Darryl, are there any online questions related to this?
There are. So a question from Jordy Reichson. More development means more people, which means more cars, and that makes sense. But much of the traffic woes that will be added are beyond the control of Côte-Saint-Luc. So what will be done, for example, to encourage Hampstead to replace their stop signs and left turn restrictions on Fleet? I think this is more of a question for the administration.
It's more a question for the elected officials, I would say. But David, speak into a microphone. I think you should come up because it's just easier. There will be more political questions. Sit in your seat.
We have been speaking to Montreal on various things. Clanranald, as one example, we've been talking to the mayor of Côte-des-Neiges. There is an openness to removing that one lane of parked cars, but there's more than that needs to be done. And we've been speaking to the developers, the potential developers of Décarie Square. They're going to be adding a lane for the bus, so that's going to give more room. We are speaking to Montreal again about the traffic lights, the two-hand turns. There's certainly a more openness on the side of Montreal to work with us on the developments that they want to see as well. And because the developments that we're going to see in Côte-Saint-Luc will benefit everybody. So there's an openness there. We have to continue doing our part. On other, working with Hampstead, there's something that we'll continually do. We can't force them, obviously, they're an independent city, but we'll definitely keep pushing on that. On other exits out of Côte Saint-Luc, and this is not part of the presentation, but we are working with Montreal, the agglomeration, for another exit out of Côte Saint-Luc. Currently, everybody goes onto Fleet, and that leads to either Van Horn or Vizina, which is where the problems lie. So we understand that. What we're looking at, again, and I know this has been talked about for 30 years, the potential Cavendish, I'm not certain that that's the best solution for Côte Saint-Luc, but we're exploring it with Montreal. There are other potential exits out of Côte Saint-Luc that we're also exploring. So Montreal needs an exit for the Hippodrome development. They need Côte Saint-Luc. Côte Saint-Luc will benefit from a discussion with them. So we're working on other solutions that are going to serve Côte Saint-Luc, and that's my commitment, is to make sure that anything we do will serve our residents, and that other exit that we're going to develop with Montreal will alleviate a tremendous amount of traffic off of Fleet, Van Horn, Vizina, and that's going to help all of our residents. So those are some of the commitments that we're working with. But again, one thing that has to be considered, and it was in the presentation, is you're going to have some less commerce, which brings in traffic. You're going to have more residential. That's the traffic on residential is mornings and afternoons, whereas commercial is all day. And we saw the volumes. Again, if you have a large box store that comes to DeCarry Square, again, I'm giving that as an example, traffic on Vizina is going to be mayhem, whether it's Monday or Sunday. And so we want to avoid that. And a proper development with the proper exits and traffic mitigation measures that we're looking at. And these are our studies. This is not a developer that's telling us what they want us to hear. This is the city of Côte Saint-Luc developing taking our own information, our own study on what the actual traffic is on any given day, and giving us the real time. So you may not believe it, and I understand some people are skeptical, and that's okay. But the reality is, again, this is our information, and we're looking out for the best interest of Côte Saint-Luc residents. Okay?
think
Next question.
Number 5.
Lily Pearson. I live on Mark Chagall. From what you're talking about, it's not very clear how out of DeCarry Square there's going to be an entrance directly from Vizina, or are you putting it in another location? Like Royal Mount has a light when you go in on DeCarry Square. Are you talking about another light from DeCarry Square going in?
No, it will be the existing traffic light in front of the Belvedere Street.
Where?
No, Clara, sorry.
A new light?
I'm gonna
Okay.
come back and show you, but it's better
Okay.
with the...
So essentially, there's one light right now that's at that driveway that comes out of, I think that's with McLean, is that right? Colebrook,
don't-
sorry.
whatever.
So it's you have two
Yeah.
traffic directions that are meeting
Right.
and creating traffic mayhem. So the recommendation is to move the traffic light away from that intersection, move it
This
to
traffic light
Clanranald.
here,
So there's no other entrance coming in from DeCarry Square? It's all going to still be Vizina, Clanranald in that?
So the bottleneck is not on our territory. The bottleneck is really the crossing DeCarry. That's the biggest issue. So we're working with Montreal to see if we can have a double left-hand turn, synchronize the lights with our traffic lights, or actually they're all their traffic lights, but have a synchronized traffic light to help the flow. This movement of traffic lights and change of direction are recommendations we're going to make to Montreal to improve the flow of traffic, which is a key element.
But you're talking about also, I know you don't want to talk about it now, but you're also talking about putting up apartment buildings, basically, and taking away commerce. I know it's difficult to get commerce in after what's happened after COVID, but Côte Saint-Luc needs commerce.
Absolutely.
So I think that you're cutting out the commerce and putting up buildings, that you're going to be like Toronto.
We're not cutting out commerce.
Big
So
condos.
We're going to get into the urban
Yeah.
plan. No,
I
it's
know.
a good comment. I'll address it, but we're talking about traffic.
I
We're going to get into
understand.
the details. One commitment that we've had is to keep the commerce that we have in Côte Saint-Luc because it's critical. We have a lot of things that are Cavendish Mall is a great service center, IGA, Pharmaprix, and all of the other things that they have.
You're gonna
We have
keep
commitments
past it.
to
I
keep
realize.
those commerces and more, and improve the amount of commerce available, more local type
You have
commerce.
to bring in more commerce.
100%, and
I
with
mean, you have
density
to
will
make it
come.
interesting for people to invest in Côte
Absolutely.
Saint-Luc.
I want to be able to have a coffee in Côte Saint-Luc and not go to Moncton. I want to be able to go to a restaurant in Côte Saint-Luc and not go to, so these are the kinds of things that we want to develop, and that's part of revitalizing the areas of our malls.
Okay, so I have to discuss this the next,
We're going to finish the traffic,
Yeah,
and we're going to
okay,
get into
fine.
the.
I'll come back.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other traffic-related questions for our consultant?
Number 6, Daryl, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shirley, I live at 6800 McDonald. The traffic coming out of Côte Saint-Luc from Abraham de Sola onto Clanranald, onto Vizina is mayhem, okay? The other day, it took me a half hour. I couldn't even get out of my garage because nobody seems to stop and allow people to exit.
Right.
Okay, don't you think it's a better idea to deal with the traffic before you put up all these units?
So
Okay.
it's a great question. The reality is this development we're looking at a 10-year development plan. It's not tomorrow, but we are addressing right now. Since we started right away with the discussions with Montreal on improvements. Montreal doesn't move extremely quickly, and I understand that, but they are moving in the right direction. There's an openness to helping solve some of the issues. The parking is a big one, but the synchronization of lights is something that Montreal is not ready for. We are working on synchronizing our traffic lights. We're going to be using AI. That's on Cavendish and Fleet. We're going to hopefully have Hampstead join suit. That's going to help the flow out of Côte Saint-Luc. So we're working on our portions. For Montreal, these are things that we're working with them and to our benefit, but it'll benefit them as well. They're all about mobility. They're all about moving people as quickly as possible, reducing greenhouse gases. So we're moving them along, and we have somebody, if I may, Rick Lechner is in the audience. He's going to be he's meeting with Montreal, and I know he's working on benefits for Côte Saint-Luc as well. I also want to recognize former Mayor Robert Libman, who's in the audience, and I want to thank him for coming today. Short answer is we are actively working with Montreal on solving some of the issues, and unfortunately, it's on Montreal territory. So.
Is there question number 7 or 8? 7. And can I just, while we're waiting for him to come up, there was a question online, and just a relatively simple question. The traffic studies that were done at the 3 mall sites, was this during rush hour? Was it during off-peak hours? At what time were the studies done?
When we do the surveys, we take all the traffic during the day, and then we take the worst case scenario of each peak hour. So in the morning, noon, and the afternoon. So we take the most of the traffic that is occurring at that time, and then we simulate the traffic condition. So we always take the worst scenario, or the worst case of the traffic during the day.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Lechner.
Good evening. I think we could spend the next 2 weeks, even with bunk beds here, discussing this. The numbers are the numbers, but they never tell the full story. And I think everybody in this room is cognizant of the fact that the frustration limit is beyond the beyond. Yes, thank you, Mayor Torjman, for mentioning the fact that I do have, coincidentally, a meeting scheduled with the City of Montreal tomorrow, and I believe they are far more open. I've had some discussions as well with Alan D'Souza, but let's see what happens, because we've been looking at the situation for decades, and I would submit that we need, yes, a specific plan. The specific question I have you spoken with Transport Quebec about doing something at the corner of Jean Talon de Carry? Because we can do whatever we want to add lanes to Vézina, to take away the parking on Plamondon, which is also required, but as long as we're feeding more traffic onto the Carry, we're not going to win. So part and parcel of this equation must be some plan to deal with Côte Saint-Luc and with, I beg your pardon, with Décarie and Jean Talon, as they have done partly at Côte Saint-Luc and Décarie. And I've mentioned this to the former administration of the City of Montreal. Take the example of what's been done at Côte Saint-Luc and Décarie, which has improved, and implement that at least as a temporary measure at Décarie and Jean Talon. So all these plans are great, and I think the city should be commended for the work that's been done to date, but we need to remember that getting across Décarie is the problem. I do not think, by the way, I don't want to throw cold water on it, having discussed this with SPVM, you're not going to get 2 lanes turning left off Vézina onto Décarie North. They just are not going to allow it. And they're not going to widen the roadway to facilitate that. So these things have to be taken into consideration. Also, the question of Cavendish, because part of the plan of Cavendish is doing something on Clan-Ranald, which may have an impact on the things you're trying to do. So I think the entire picture has to be looked at, as it has been looked at for years, but I think we have the best chance of doing something now with the City of Montreal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leclerc. So their openness with Montreal is tremendous these days, and I appreciate it. I've had multiple meetings with them already on other traffic solutions, like I mentioned earlier, Cavendish and other exits out of Côte Saint-Luc. I do appreciate your involvement in the Cavendish-Décarie solution. As an engineer, I've looked at Décarie and Jean Talon, and I think the only solution is to blow it up and start all over again, because there's just nothing that can be done with the configuration.
You are correct, and the sad reality is that this is going to take years before it's done. And I live right there.
Right, but to your point, and it's a very important point to be made, is we are working to improve traffic in Côte Saint-Luc and in adjoining streets, especially with Montreal, Hampstead. But you're absolutely right. We can get you to Jean Talon, or we can get you to crossing Décarie, and then there's a whole other problem, right? You'll be stuck there, and that's just going to back up. So I agree, we can move the traffic flow a lot better out of Côte Saint-Luc, but you're still going to take that extra 45 minutes to cross Décarie. I know Montreal is committed to working on crossing Décarie and improving the flow. We have to work with them on all of those solutions, especially with the Hippodrome development that they're looking at. That's going to create a whole other level of traffic in that immediate area. So we do have to work with them on these potential developments.
Agreed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leclerc.
All right, number 7 or 8? 8.
I don't want to get into Décarie and Vézina, but there's a more interesting situation that if you could put up the slide for Cavendish Mall or Quartier Cavendish. From what I could see, it was very hard to read, you're talking about 1,600 units, new units being built there, residential. And I believe it said, and that's why I asked if you could blow it up, it said something about decreasing the commercial size and increasing the office space. Is that what it said up there?
That's what is planned by the developer.
I'm not asking about that. I want to know, because of traffic, if it's increasing the office space and decreasing the commercial space, and you're talking about a new entrance, what about the parking space that's going to take the cars?
Right.
This is where it's
right.
very unclear about a new entrance. Where's it leading to?
Yeah.
So the majority of the new parking will be underground.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's
And
one thing that wasn't mentioned, and that's very important.
And one other clarification is, for this particular site, there could be 1,800 new units on this particular site, but what's important to note is we're not at that sort of level of planning at this point in time. That is more or less what we feel the site can handle in terms of new traffic. So that's the number we gave our consultant to work with to run their simulations.
Okay, because at this stage, those of us who do have to drive there, because when you go to buy your food, you're not going to walk even 3 blocks with your parcels.
Yeah.
you're talking, right now, as far as I see it, and I'm there, I walk there or I drive there, there are sufficient entries and exits as of today. The question is, therefore, is this proposal that you're saying to create yet another entry, will it eliminate any of the existing entries?
No, it will
No.
be a new one to
Yeah, so-
improve the traffic.
No reduction of entrances?
No
but
reduction,
an
so you're
additional
going
one?
to have
Right.
that additional entry for the parking garage, is that it?
Yeah, and this one in effect exists already, but it's only to exit the site. So what our consultant is recommending is that traffic northbound on Cavendish could turn left and enter the site at that same location, and you'd be able to go underground into the.
But the
underground
left turn at the avenue will still
Correct,
be
we'll
there?
say, correct, yeah.
park. Correct.
Okay, that's fine. In other words, you're increasing the capacity to go with the parking garage if and when it ever gets built.
100% correct. And we will consider possibly some at-grade parking for example, the IGA. We're not at that level of sort of planning yet. Yes, there's a reduction in commercial space, increase possibly for the office space, but we intend keeping the anchor tenants for sure at all three locations. So the pharmacy
Okay.
isn't going
And-
anywhere,
and
neither is the IGA.
the potential changes which you'll deal with in the next phase, I presume, with regard to office, where it would be and so on. Because
Not the where it would be, because we haven't, like as Charles said, we haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay, but one assumes there'll have to be additions to the high-rise. Is that correct?
The existing high-rise?
Well, the existing 8-story building is already full as far as we know with regard to offices.
Yes.
Now, I know that they did receive authorization, although they never used, to build a seniors residence at the back above the dry cleaners. Is that the only addition?
No, you'd look at, there'd be various sort of new buildings on that particular site that vary in height depending on where they are situated, and of course, depending on the nearest existing property. So there'll be many other buildings on that particular site, new buildings.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we have question number 9. And while we're waiting for question number 9, a question about the traffic. The questioner asks, although the traffic studies, even with the worst-case scenario, seem not terrible, the question is, well, what if they're all combined, right? Because we have 3 sites potentially.
Yeah.
Will one affect another one as cars move through the city?
Because they're not using all the same roads, they will be not really affected, but in each other's. One is on Côte Saint-Luc, Chemin Côte Saint-Luc, the other one is on Cavendish, the other is Vézina. So they're quite separate. For sure, there will be some correlation on Vézina for Cavendish Mall and the Carry Square Mall, but they're quite separate. If I can maybe add some precision, if maybe you know about the solar site in Brossard, you know, the big towers, a big development. So when it was planned, it was the numbers that were showing a disaster. Okay? Currently, they are building. There was 3,000 units already built there. It's planned to be 6,000 units, and so far there's no traffic at that location because they're building stage by stage. They improve the road efficiency at each stage. So it will be the same here for the same malls.
Thank you. Okay. Yes.
My name is Leonard Miller. I live on McDonald. I doubt if any of this is going to affect me because by the time anything of this gets done, I don't think I'll be here anymore. But that's beside the point.
Till 120 and good.
Looking at the Carry Square, to me it sounded like you're going to have 1,600 new units. Is that correct? 1,800. Tom, you. I think the statistic that you're using for the number of cars in the province of Quebec versus the number of cars in the town or the city of Côte Saint-Luc may not be the same. So if there's 1 point something in the province of Quebec, it's probably 3 point something in Côte Saint-Luc. when you're using your statistics, are you using Côte Saint Luc statistics for the number of cars? Or are you using, because we have no public transport, well, I'm sorry, we have no REM or no subways, so there's, cars is the only which way. And the rest of Quebec, the rest of Montreal has subways and all that. They don't need cars as much. There's public transportation here is limited, and I'm wondering if your statistics are correct.
So the statistic of ownership are from the area, greater area of Montreal. But for the numbers of people using their cars in the morning versus transit, we use it specifically the numbers from the Côte Saint-Luc district. That because the IRTM that use
Yep.
mobility, they do surveys in each boroughs and each city of Greater Montreal, so we can extract these numbers specifically for the sector of Côte Saint-Luc. But for the ownership, we don't have specific ownership for Côte Saint-Luc. We have an average for Greater Montreal.
Okay.
I'd like to just add to that. So I don't disagree with you at all. In fact, you're correct. The average Côte Saint-Luc household has certainly more than 2 vehicles. The reality is, though, if we redevelop these sites and these new owners are permitted to have 3, 4 vehicles, the impact on the existing traffic would be major.
Oh, yeah.
And we certainly can't afford to let that happen. It would be irresponsible, and hence why we're using the numbers we are, and hence why we are changing the number of parking spots per unit in our zoning bylaw, which my colleague, Mr. Vu, will get to after this presentation. We feel it's absolutely essential to have some form of control over how many new parking spots are dedicated to the new residential components of these redevelopments. If not, for sure, the traffic impact will be too severe.
The other thing that I was curious about, I think you were saying that there was going to be 40% less, or was it going to be 40% of the available stores today would be in the new project? What happens to all the people that need the shopping?
I mean, the main shops will remain, like supermarket, etc. So the small businesses or workers that not work today would be closed, but they will keep the biggest brands, for example, IGA or something like that.
Yeah, but the small stores are where we all shop, or we all have our haircuts.
We're gonna get into that. So I agree. It is important to keep the commercial nature. We will be maintaining the commercial in the lower floors, much like they do in other areas. You've probably seen some of these developments. But we'll let our manager get into the details of what's going to be where. Thank you.
All right, we have number 10 or 11. 10 or 11
Then
or
that's
12.
at the end. Second question period is on the developments, whatever.
If there aren't more traffic-related questions, are there? Yeah, there is. Okay, come on up. So we have 10, 11, 12, 13.
I'm 12.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, I live at Le Vicomte. It took me this morning a half an hour to get from my driveway to cross the Carry to get onto, let's say, Vizina and Trans Island. It was raining. It's not the first time it ever rained here. Now, according to my estimates, you're planning on building between the 3 locations, between 5,000 and 6,000 residential units?
The 1,600.
No, the 16 at the Carry, and
In
then
total,
plus Cavendish, plus Côte Saint Luc.
Oh, correct.
I don't know if Côte Saint Luc Shopping Center would affect us so much, but Cavendish, the people living at Cavendish, if they need to get to they're going to come through Fleet or Plamondon or Vizina. Those 1,800 plus our 1,600 or vice versa is going to affect the same bottleneck area. The traffic is not from the shopping center. Côte Saint Luc Shopping Center and Cavendish Mall are not destination malls. They're local. There's not a lot, people aren't going to come from Nuns Island to go to IGA when you have IGA everywhere. The Carry Square has, let's say, Winners and the vaccination center that brings in people from the outside. My concern is not the traffic, and I live across the street. My concern is not the traffic from the Carey Square. My issue is the mobility to get out. By adding all residential units, you're adding a bottleneck during rush hour. When I have to get to work in the morning and it takes me a half an hour to cross, it's a 5-minute walk and it's taking me a half an hour to cross, just get over on the other side of the Carey, there's a problem. Another 6,000 units is going to cause even more, plus the hippodrome, plus everything else. So we need more mobility. We need Cavendish open. We need to give people other opportunities to leave this area, to exit Côte Saint-Luc. Not everybody can funnel through this area. Rush hour, the mall does not affect us during rush hour. So it's the residential traffic, and that's what has to be looked at. So this study is very nice, but it's not my reality.
I'll take this one. So once again, as I've heard the same sort of theme sort of come up tonight, I want to reassure everybody that the Côte Saint-Luc engineering team, we're well aware of the existing traffic situation on Vesna. We are. It's important that you're aware that we know. We're well aware of it. There's two parts to this. Tonight, as we said, we just wanted to evaluate what that impact would be to the last person who posed the question mentioned. We wanted to see what is the impact to the existing traffic on Vesna. That's what this study was about. But I want to sort of reassure everyone that me and my team are working closely with the City of Montreal to look at what type of mitigation measures we could be sort of implement with them, whether it's Vesna, the service road in the Carey, Jean Talon, etc. These are big major projects that are absolutely required. We agree with you, but these we'll be working on with them in tandem with the redevelopment. So, one affects the other, yes, but these are long-term projects. We have to work with the City of Montreal, and hopefully over time we can implement some mitigation measures that will ease this access to Carey. We're well aware. I'm also on various technical committees with them for Cavendish Extension, Hippodrome, Clan Randall, somebody mentioned. So we're looking at it holistically. I just want to assure people that we're not just looking at it in a vacuum. So I thought it's important to mention.
But there's long-term plans to open up the roads, but short-term plans to build the residences.
So, yeah, again, the developments we're looking at 10 to 15-year developments.
Yeah.
Once we give the okay for the urban plan, they have to come to us, and they're going to do it in phases. They're going to start a building, then they're going to wait, then there's going to be a demolition phase, and then reconstruction phase. So we're really looking at a 10 to 15-year development plan.
I've been hearing about the Cavendish extension for what, 50 years?
Yeah, exactly. No, but I'm talking about the developments of the malls. So
Yeah.
I'm saying it's not tomorrow that we're having all of the malls built with full residents, right? It's going to be phased out over the next 15 years, whether it's the Carey Square or Cavendish Mall or Côte Saint-Luc Mall. So we're not going to see a spike in traffic tomorrow. It's going to be over a 15-year period.
But it's all being fit in.
I'm sorry, if you can come to the mic because I can't
Okay.
hear.
I do think there's a lot of repetition of themes here, and we have a whole other presentation, and I don't want to have people stay here till 11
So
o'clock
we'll
at
have
night.
one more question if that's okay. So one more question on traffic, if you want to come up to the mic,
We were at number 13.
ma'am. Yeah.
Is 13 have a 14, 15?
Oh, okay.
14. Okay, here we go.
Okay, so, and then we're going to move on to the urban plan part. You're going to see much more detail on what's coming and the phasing and the changes to the zoning that we're going to see. And then we'll have another question period.
Hi, how are you? Good, guys. I'm going to come on a positive note for Côte Saint-Luc. Côte Saint-Luc, it's old. We need new development to come to Côte Saint-Luc. And all these development, I'll be honest with you, are great for Côte Saint-Luc. Thank you very much, everybody, for really working so hard. But we need a lot of our youth, younger generation, my kids, they're all moving to Dollard, Saint Laurent, they're all moving all over the place. We need them to come back to Côte Saint-Luc. How do they come back to Côte Saint-Luc? Is build it, they would come. So we need the youth to come back to Côte Saint-Luc. They left. We don't have that 30, 40, 50, we don't have that. We needed to come back and build it. Let's build it. Great job on building it. And I know I'm going to have a few haters with me, but I'm sorry to say that We need Côte Saint-Luc to be new again, build it, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay. So I think we're going to close the traffic portion of this. So going back to our promises for the evening, you now know how we got there. You've now heard about the traffic studies. Thank you very much to our consultant. We're going to move to the next two promises of what you were going to learn this evening. Manager Andy Hiepvu from Urban Planning is going to talk about the next two, which is the differences, the big changes between the first version that was adopted in November 2024 and this version. And then after that, it's going to be followed by the timeline and what you can expect in the weeks and months to come. Go ahead.
And then we'll have breakfast after.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Tanya. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here and for staying with me for my presentation now. Before getting into the proposed zoning changes tonight's presentation, I will do three things. First, it will briefly remind everyone that what zoning does and why zoning matters. Second, it will explain what contributed to this version of the zoning bylaw. And third, it will present the main categories of changes, and finally, the timeline. Zoning is one of the main tools available to a municipality under the Act of Respecting Land Use Planning and Development. It's our tool that helps organize how the city develops over time. Zoning divides the territory into different zones. For each zone, it determines what types of uses and buildings are permitted. It also regulates the form of development. That means it can establish the standards such as building height, setbacks, lot coverage, density, parking requirements, landscaping requirements, and other development standards. It supports orderly growth. It provides predictability for residents, property owners, developers, professionals, but to us also, the city. It helps everyone understand what can be built, where it can be built, and under what conditions. It helps us achieve the objectives of the master plan. It is also important to say that zoning is not static. A zoning bylaw must evolve over time. The city changes, planning objectives change, technical standards evolve, and public expectations also evolve. This is why cities review and update their zoning bylaw. We encourage everyone to consult the city's website to review the zoning information and to contact the urban planning department if anything is unclear or if you need help understanding how the rules apply to specific properties. As mentioned earlier, the revised version of the zoning bylaw was not prepared in isolation. It reflects public consultation feedback, citizen concerns about traffic and parking, technical comments from professionals, consultants, internal departments inside here at the city, as well as our legal and conformity adjustments, including elements related to the agglomeration. One of the key objectives was also to make the bylaw clearer and easier to apply. To make the changes easier to understand, we grouped them into three main categories. The first category is text clarification. These are changes that make the wording clearer, reduce ambiguity, and make the bylaw easier to read and understand and apply. For example, the provisions for mixed-use buildings with residential uses were made more specific. Mixed-use buildings can involve different combination of residential, commercial, institutional, or service uses. The bylaw needs to clearly explains how these combinations are regulated, especially when residential uses are located above or beside non-residential uses. I would like to remind everyone also that on the website Engage, all of the table documents, zoning, subdivision, and the third one is available online. There's also copies behind where we can look at it, available in French and in English. Some exterior landscaping, construction-related provisions were also adjusted for text clarifications. Certain paragraphs, tables, figures, and graphics were corrected. Definitions were also added or corrected in our last section, the terminology section. There's a second component of it, which are technical corrections or conformity with the agglomeration. As Tanya explained, we have our duty of conforming with the palier gouvernemental, so the higher form of entity to us. And these changes respond to technical issues identified during the review, but also during the consultation process to help ensure that the bylaw is complete, consistent, and aligned with the agglomeration. For example, the wetland protection was addressed as we have adopted it in our current zoning, but we've also modified to be conforming in our new zoning. It reflects wetland protection consideration as they are subject to conformity. Another technical correction is, for example, article that relates to amenity areas, which are exhaustively explained in the zoning bylaw, and an adjustment to minimum dwelling areas. We also have adjustment to tables from the three major malls, and we took into consideration, of course, the traffic study to make sure that the specific provisions were removed from the tables, and the approach was shifted toward diagram and design criteria in the PEA bylaw. This allows the city to better address built form and architectural integration through a design review tool. The maximum parking provisions were added following the traffic studies, and several tables were also adjusted to improve clarity and application. So realistically, the parking ratio would be 1 parking per unit with a 5% for visitors parking. Third correction that we had were adjustments to certain zones. These are targeted changes to specific zoning areas where the city considered the comments received through all of the consultation process and made refinements to better reflect existing conditions, planned redevelopment, density objectives, the broader planning context. Some of these changes are reflected in the zoning map, while others are reflected in the tables of uses and norms. For example, in the first draft, we've had some zones that were merged into new zone, but the city is reverting this area back to 2 separate zones for a multifamily project, for example. We've also have some adjustment on Westminster Strip about building height, where it was adjusted in order to reflect a more targeted calibration of the permitted built form. The Sobeys area where perimeter of the zone were revisited. Jardin Westminster, that building height was adjusted also, following also the verification beside the train track, etc. For the Centennial area, we also revisited the zone to introduce and to better align with the long-term planning vision and the expected potential. We also reinstated some use that were already existing so that it doesn't render it non-conforming. They are targeted refinements based on consultation feedback, I'll say it again, technical review, existing conditions, redev potential, and our planning objectives. They also show that the city heard the comments and received, and we made these changes. Now finally, the timeline. Today, we're the May 4th, 2026, where we've gave notice of motion and tabling of 3 bylaws. And the next step is the adoption of the bylaw by council next week, May 11, 2026. This adoption is an important step, but it's not the final step of the process. After the adoption, our documents are transmitted for conformity review to the agglomeration. So basically, we are targeting the May 15th to send it to the agglomeration. We send a certified copy to them. And the agglomeration has a maximum of 120 days to review our documents. So that's the worst case scenario that can happen, 120 days about that. So if we take into consideration that, between May and September, they review it, and in September, the city will prepare a public notice and a register process for the zoning bylaw replacement. This includes preparing the public notice, identifying eligible voters, calculating the signature threshold, confirming the location. So we are going to make sure that they will be available online so residents can better understand the documents, the next step, and the functioning of that register. In early October 2026, we expect the register to be at that period. So the eligible voters may sign the register because when we replace the zoning bylaw, we have to go through the process. On October 19, the clerk is expected to file the certificate confirming the result of the register at the next council meeting. It is important to mention that some dates remain subject to legal and administrative timelines. The dates presented are based on the expected process, but they may be adjusted depending on how fast the agglomeration do the review and all the exchanges that we have with them. To conclude, this presentation is about a zoning bylaw replacement, not a simple amendment to one property or one zone. The changes to the draft version took into consideration public consultation, technical analysis, traffic and parking concerns, legal adjustments, and conformity requirements. Comments received through this process can lead to adjustments. And now those adjustments are part of a responsible planning process as they remain within our framework here. As I said, the next step are adoption by council, transmission for conformity, preparation of public notice, etc. The overall objective is to provide city with a more modern and more coherent zoning that supports our orderly growth, protects quality of life, and reflect both planning objectives and also the reality of Côte Saint-Luc. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, so now we've gotten to the point where we've covered what we were going to cover. If you have questions, I'm going to moderate the questions, and so will Director Levine, who is monitoring the ones online. So all of these documents, just to reiterate, the presentation is going on the Engage website. The documents of all the revised zoning, the master plan, and all of this is going to be on the Engage site. It already is on the Engage site, I believe. So if you want to look at this in detail, please feel free. It is all available tonight, even as soon as now. So if there are any questions, we can go back to the numbers.
We're at number 15. All right, 10 comes before 15. That's good.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I've come to the public consultations in the past and raised the issue again in the past. It's a beautiful document. It's a well thought out, comprehensive document, but in my opinion, there's a major omission, of course, in the document. And as you know, a third of Côte Saint-Luc's territory is occupied by the CP Kansas City rail yards. It's a major black hole right in the city. And if we're talking about aspiration, if we're talking about vision, if we're talking long-term, as you've all evoked as comments in presenting the document, I think this is one area that certainly needs to be reimagined. This is the time to do it. Mr. Mayor, you and I sat on a committee a number of years ago called the Coalition for the Relocation of the Côte-Saint-Luc Rail Yards. And if ever there was a moment to really reimagine, think about, develop the future, offer aspirational hope for the residents of Côte-Saint-Luc, this is really a sector that needs some reflection. And obviously, you're going to say that CP is not going anywhere, CP's intention is to stay, CP doesn't want to leave right now, but of course that's short term. We want to put development pressure on CP. We want to create momentum, debate, discussion about reimagining the rail yards, and that all contributes to eventually tangibly leading to the possibility of them considering. Many other major cities in North America are all doing that because rail yards established in certain parts of the city many years ago for economic and industrial purposes, but as the cities developed towards the center, they were obviously, for natural reasons, pushed to the outskirts. And CP owns a lot of land on the outskirts of Montreal, and I think wouldn't this be an opportunity in developing the urban vision, the urban plan for the city to really look at pushing that forward. And this could be, you council members, this could be a legacy project for this council to really push hard on this. And the first way to push hard is to knock over the first domino, identifying it in the urban master plan as something that this city aspirationally wants to achieve. And at the same time, it would open up some of the additional conduits in and out of the city, which we sorely lack. And that's something that I think really is an omission here. The rest of the document, it's a beautiful document, as I said. It's well thought out. But I think this aspect should be addressed. It's like a cardiac patient going into an operating room for surgery, and everyone's working on every part of his body except his heart. And this is really a part of the city that needs to be rethought. And here's your opportunity to really embed yourself in the Côte-Saint-Luc history books by making this a legacy project for this council.
Can I answer one thing and then you can answer? So you are very consistent, for sure. So in the master plan itself, we certainly address our desire to have them go away and to have some development there. So it's open as our stated position. What you're talking about is really a full-fledged PPU for that whole area. So we, given the scope of that kind of thing, we are not close, we didn't put it in, we didn't make a PPU for it for this exercise, but certainly, I mean, even David and I discussed today that it requires a whole PPU unto itself, and that is something for the future.
Le plan particulier d'urbanisme. I was going to mention that when he answered that, you responded that way last time, but I think to give it really more heft, if it's included in the urban master plan, I think it really gives it a lot more emphasis. And while
David,
he's
did you wanna
consulting, I
add?
just wanted to mention one other thing. You sort of look negatively upon the 2004 urban master plan, which I was very much involved in, as was Mrs. Housefather's son, Andita Burku. A lot of work went into that. A lot of public consultation went into that. Focus groups, consultations in Côte-Saint-Luc at both the Montreal level and Côte-Saint-Luc's urban planning master chapter, which was divided into three. It wasn't a document per se. It was a Montreal West, Hampstead, and Côte-Saint-Luc, each individual sectors. And it was very well received at the time and won some urban planning sustainable development awards. I just want to add that
I
to
wasn't
correct.
poo-pooing anything. I'm just saying we don't have a new master plan, is all.
Anyways, I think this is the opportunity. Give it the heft it needs, that vision for the Côte-Saint-Luc rail yards by including it as an annex, as a PPU that's attached to the master plan. I think that would probably be something that this council should seriously consider.
So one thing that has been discussed is to put it as a PPU, but to do that at any point in this last phase of planning would have delayed the master plan. So it's something that we're going to, I'm committed to doing, that I think is a critical element. I agree with you. I think the heart of Côte-Saint-Luc is what we're working on, but we'll work on the other ports. The third of Côte-Saint-Luc is in the rail yards, and it's an important element to at least project developments for. So we will do it through the PPU, but it's going to take some time, a lot of consultation, a lot of development, and a lot of staff time for sure. So we'll
As the eminent Kiki Observer mentioned earlier, build it and they will come.
Yes.
You want young people to come to Côte Saint-Luc, you've got to
Absolutely.
build the infrastructure, you've got to build.
100%.
And also you have to enhance our tax base so we can afford to fix our roads and some of the infrastructure that sorely needs it. And a third of our tax base is being consumed by the Israeli art right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you very
There you
much.
go.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Oui. J'aimerais juste rajouter le fait que les informations qui se retrouvent dans les grilles de zonage sont disponibles en arrière ou sinon sur notre site web Engage. Si vous avez des questions spécifiques par rapport à certaines propriétés, n'hésitez pas à communiquer avec nous, le service de l'urbanisme. Ça va me faire plaisir de pouvoir regarder plus attentivement. Tous ces documents-là, d'abord et avant tout, ont été prêts, publics, depuis 2024, novembre 2024, lorsqu'il y a eu l'adoption des premiers projets. Mais cependant, nous sommes toujours ouverts à regarder avec vous les différents aspects qui traitent concernant les hauteurs, densité, un peu comme ce que j'ai expliqué suite à ma présentation. Donc, ça me fait plaisir de pouvoir parler avec vous. N'hésitez surtout pas.
So one thing we're also, it's not quite ready yet because we haven't updated it, but we're working on an interactive map so you can click on your zone and then see what the zoning is right away. So it's easier for you to find it as opposed to having to consult a table. Next question.
Number 15 or 16 or 17? 18? Yep. Well, if there's somebody, I think we'll probably have time, but I'd like to give others also a chance. Is there 19 or 20? Is there anybody who has a number in the 20s who has a question about this part of the project?
Come to the microphone because,
Number 2, I didn't speak yet. I'm asking,
Okay.
will there be another question session after this gentleman?
he's done. This is the question.
You come on
Second
up.
question session.
I can go up and say something. First of all, I want to say hello to the new mayor, Torgman. It's the first time I'm speaking in front of our new mayor, so I'm honored.
Thank you very much.
I'm very much in favor of what one of the gentlemen said, to bring in young families, and I think that in the little apartments, that won't happen. I think we need more townhouses and more homes that would entice families to live here. I live in a condo where we moved in as retired people. In the past 5 years, more and more families are moving in with 2 or 3 children because they can't afford homes. There's no townhouses, there's no duplexes. So I think it's terrible planning to only think of high-rises. Terrible, terrible planning.
We are including townhouses. We are,
Regarding the parking, if anybody's tried to park at the Jewish General Hospital's new parking system, where you have to go down, is it Lagaria? I'm not sure which street. You go down and you have to make a left into their parking lot. That's chock-a-block lineup of cars because the people who want to go through the street can't, and people have to line up. So I hope that every new area that you're planning, there'll be more than one exit and entrance for the parking, and that you're thinking of that there should be parking for the residents, but parking for the people who are coming and going, and parking for the people who are working there. And I want to go back to another thing that I think you opened the discussion, that we need more tax base. So how do we get more tax base if we're limiting the businesses? I think that we have terrific businesses in Cavendish Mall. The Carey Square is booming. It was a dead place, very poorly planned. You should know, anybody who's an architect, it's a nightmare the way the former mayor, nightmare the way the Carey Square was built, and yet now it's booming. It has a medical center, it's winners, it has life, it has a center where you can get a blood test, it has a pharmacy, it has all kinds of things. I don't think we should be looking to have less businesses. I think we need more businesses. There will be a good tax base.
So in the order of the questions, as I remember them, I tried to take a quick note, is there will be townhomes. It's just not just high rises. There are townhomes and low rise buildings. So we're going to have different kinds of housing available.
Absolutely.
So that's one. In terms of the traffic and the in and out, I know Legary Bourret, it's a disaster at any time of the day. We are, part of this whole plan and part of what our consultants are doing is helping us design the best traffic situations to make sure we don't have situations like near the Jewish General, and that we can improve our current situation, as well as improving another egress, another exit out of Côte Saint-Luc. That's something that's important for our residents. And I just want to, so just on the questions, on the tax base, we are increasing our tax base by having additional housing. So the additional housing, the townhomes, the high-rises, the condos, and the commerces that we're keeping, because we're keeping a good amount of commerce, but we're not going to have those open spaces in between. We're going to keep the service center elements that we need and love, the IGAs, the pharmacies, and all of those service elements that we need in Côte Saint-Luc, and also have restaurants, ice cream shops, coffee shops, things that people will want to congregate to and create that vibrancy in Côte Saint-Luc. So we're going to be increasing our tax base by increasing density and developing. Right now, there's a parking lot. The value of a parking lot is very, very low. Whereas if you develop it into homes and higher value homes, and even just homes of affordable homes, you're going to get a bigger tax base.
An added thing regarding tax, I think that we should make sure that people moving to Côte Saint-Luc are taxpayers. I'm not going to elaborate more. Taxpayers, not people who move and then don't pay tax because they fall under a certain category. Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to add one other thing. In terms of the actual breakdown of the housing, in other words, how many bedrooms these units will have, etc., we don't know that yet. That needs to be determined with market studies that'll determine, for example, what the needs will be for the next 5 years. 5 years from now, that exercise has to be done again when you look at phase 2, 3, 4 of the redevelopment. So it's certainly not something that'll be set in stone from day one. Those needs will change over time, so I just wanted to let people know.
And I overlook Cavendish, and there's a lot of traffic on it right now. I just want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next question.
This is Housefather, if you'd like to answer.
And then
I also would like to welcome you. I'm sorry, I was remiss in not doing it initially. I agree with Robert. In fact, I was waiting for that section so that I could bring up, because Anthony always said, if we could only get that 1/3 of Côte Saint-Luc developed, we get little taxes from the CN. If we could develop it, it could have tremendous commercial potential for the city and whatever other development we want. So I think we're leaving 1/3 of the city not realizing the potential it can for our city to make it great. So I really support Robert's suggestion that that is an essential component that has to be in. I agree that we need development. We do need places where younger people will come in. But my question is, how expensive are these places going to be? New development is costly. Land is costly. Construction is costly. With the tariffs, everything is even more money bringing it in. How expensive are these developments going to be for the person? And will it attract youth that we really do need to enter the Côte Saint-Luc premises?
So that's something the market studies will put forth. However, you touched on something important. That's the reason why we have to increase the density on these lots. It can't stay the way it is, can't stay status quo. We need to increase the density to make it viable for the developers and property owners to be able to redevelop these lots. If not, nothing's going to happen on these lots, and you're just going to have a parking lot and an old shopping center for the next 40 years. So that was a very valid point. I don't necessarily disagree with the comment from Robert vis-a-vis CP. However, working closely with them over the last almost 20 years, honestly, my opinion is that CP is not going anywhere anytime soon. And by the time the city revisits its master plan, perhaps at that point, it's a more appropriate sort of point in time to potentially include, whether it's a PPU or a section in and itself regarding CP. I just don't see CP going anywhere in the next 10 years. 10 years ago, there were certain talks and they looked like there was potentially an openness for a possibility, but I can tell you, over the last 5 to 10 years, that has completely changed. So they're not going anywhere anytime soon. Doesn't mean we shouldn't plan for it, but I think in the next rendition of the master plan, we could look at putting a section in for CP.
Next question.
We have a gentleman in the back who hasn't asked a question. If you'd like to come to the microphone, sir. Yes.
Yes, please. And then, ma'am, I think you're next. Okay, so.
Norman Fisher.
Yes, who are you, Mr. Fisher?
I have 3 short things. One is, I live on a street called Rembrandt, on which there are 5 condos. Each condo is 8 floors plus a penthouse, approximately. There may be some variation one building to another, but that's the average. Now, that represents 400 units. Now, when you talk about 1,600 units in one shopping area, you're talking about 4 streets like mine. Where are you going to put them? That's my question. Where are you going to put them?
So
now, if you, there's regulations on height. If you're going to say, well, we're going to have buildings that are not 8 stories, but are going to be 32 stories, that makes a difference. Visually, you have to understand 1,600 units requires a footprint. Where are you going to put it? Now, my second question is, I once saw a program on PBS, maybe 25, 30 years ago, that compared traffic studies across cities in North America. And the one thing that I took away from this program was that when cities laid out the structure of the roadways, they used studies of traffic that would be using it. Now, traffic meant numbers of cars. Now, in the 25 years that have passed, the number of cars is tenfold. My car is 15 years old. I'm never going to sell it. How many of us have cars that we're never going to sell? So there are many, many, many more cars, but the footprint of the roadways has stayed the same. That's why we have traffic. That's why we have jams. Now, the solution to the second problem is public transport. Yes. I don't drive downtown anymore. I just don't. I take the bus and the metro. Thank God it's free. Okay. The third thing I want to say is this exercise that you're bringing to us has been replicated in other municipalities. Where my sister lives in Saint Laurent, they wanted to cut the parking space by 2/3 and put up low cost and other kinds of housing. The people who live in the condos on the other side of the street were given a vote. They roundly, overwhelmingly defeated it. So Côte Vertu stays the same as it was. Now, the villain in your presentation is that office space and commercial enterprise in these 3 commercial areas are the villain. They're not the villain. They're not the villain. We need them because otherwise we'll be like Hampstead, in which there are no shopping centers. We'll be a dormitory community. We won't have, it's a way of life which will change and will not be for the better. That's my feeling. Thank you.
Thank you. So very quickly, the 400 units that you're mentioning on one street, the development of Cavendish Mall is significantly bigger than 4 streets of Rembrandt, and there's going to be varying densities as well as townhomes. the density is required, like Charles was indicating, so that we can promote and have development in our city. And there's various developments in the city that are necessary so that we can attract youth to our city, increase our tax base, and again, we're going to be keeping commerce in the city. We're not getting rid of all of the commerce. We're keeping our service centers, the IGAs, the pharmacies, and a lot of the other services that are in Côte Saint-Luc. Obviously, the stores that are, if you go to the mall, there's, I don't know, 7 hairdressers. So maybe there won't be 7 hairdressers available again, but these are things that will evolve with the needs of the community. In terms of mobility, the way traffic studies are done now, the way traffic flow is, mobility elements are looked at. So increasing the access to bus. If you can get from Côte Saint-Luc to Namur in 5 minutes, if you go through the CP yards, it's 5 minutes. Whereas if you go through Van Horn or Fleet Van Horn, Jean Talon, De Carry, it could be a 45-minute drive. So we are looking at other ways of getting people out of Côte Saint-Luc so we can reduce traffic. So I think those are the points that you made, and I hope I've covered all of your questions in those answers. I don't know if you have anything to add.
But I just want to add something because the theme of commerce. So even as recently as this morning, the mayor and I met with the Chambre de Commerce for our sector of the island of Montreal. We don't just want the anchor tenants. When we had the public consultations, we heard over and over and over again that people wanted a life. They wanted active places to go. They wanted, and not just youth. Everyone wanted it. Seniors wanted it. People my age wanted it. Everybody wanted it. They wanted a life. And so they wanted a life in Côte Saint-Luc. And so one of the things that we are committed to is economic development in terms of businesses of all sizes, not just your chain IGAs and that. So I just want to emphasize that because somehow it keeps coming up that we don't want commerce. We want commerce more than the malls want the commerce, just to say.
Thank you very much. Okay. Charles? Yes.
All over.
Yeah.
Well, if you have a question about it, we will answer the questions you have, but the presentation part is over.
So it's just we're going to let we can
Millie, I just want some clarification. You're putting up condos. Is there a requirement for low income?
It's a great question. So we are looking at in one of the developments to we're having discussions with an organization that's from the community that will incorporate some of the low-income housing within the context of the development. We're working as well, we're in discussions with the council on developing a policy for overall low-income housing.
But it is a requirement to have it in a condo. Is that what, am I correct?
Go ahead. Yeah.
The requirement is to have, it's zoned for multifamily. We are not the ones who determine if it's condo or not condo. That's the market. We just zone that many people live here, but it's really the market that determines whether it's condominiums or whether it's apartments.
Look, I'll take a stab at this and clarify. Right now, there'll be no requirement as such at all, unless the city itself and the council decides that the city is to draft a standalone bylaw that requires some form of social and affordable housing that would be linked to, for example, these 3 redevelopment zones, possibly. That is something we're currently looking into and considering as a city. But right now, there's no requirement.
If it's mandatory.
No, so it
it's not.
currently is not. We are having that discussion. We had a discussion actually tonight in committee, and it's something that we're considering for the future, but we are looking at integrating in some of the projects some low-income housing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So it is approaching 9 o'clock. If there are, to honor everybody's time, we should take 1 or 2 more questions at most, particularly for people online who haven't asked questions yet. There are all other people online.
It's a general question, just for clarity. There isn't a plan specifically before the city because this area hasn't been rezoned. But once that happens, the malls would the current malls would be demolished and something new would be built. That's just a very basic question. That's accurate? That's how it would work?
Ish. For most of the developers that we've spoken to, they would in fact probably build something, let's say in the parking lot, before demolishing the whole thing. It's just from a financial point of view that would make more sense for them. But this passage of these plans, the adoption of these plans, is really only the first, I'm going to say the first thing that happens, right? Once the zoning is in place, then the developers have to bring their projects to the city, and then we have to go through the whole PAC process. Like it's not just development happens, but it's going to be slow. And even when it happens, it'll be in phases, phase 1, and then there's an absorption rate that has to occur. They're not just going to build everything.
Right. So there was a comment as well as to what the developments are. So we've spoken about the 3 large developments, the Décarie Square, Cavendish Mall, and Côte Saint-Luc Mall. There are other larger developments, not larger, but other large developments in Côte Saint-Luc. So on Westminster, Mackle, there's a development that's going to be, that's being proposed in that area, higher density. Everybody knows it as, well, formerly Vincelli. That's a development that's coming down the pipeline. It's going to revitalize that area. It's going to be, the proposed project is a beautiful project that's going to add a lot of affordable homes for young families, apartments and townhouses. So we're looking forward to a project like that. Also incorporated some commercial on the ground floor. There's the Caldwell Center, currently Caldwell, and the CIBC building. If you know where the sort of the mikveh is on Mackle, there's 2 buildings that go around it like a horseshoe. That's another part of the development plan, a large development plan for Côte Saint-Luc, and essentially the revitalization of the whole Westminster corridor all the way to Montreal West. That whole area is an area that we're looking to revitalize, redevelop, and really bring up the value of the homes, but also allow for development that currently doesn't allow for it. So all of these individual projects are going to add value, are going to make the community really, I believe, a lot better in so many ways, whether it's access to housing, access to commercial, and also increasing the valuation of those individual properties. Okay.
So I think we have to wrap up because it's 9:05 now. If you have questions about a specific zone, feel free to contact the Urban Planning Department. That's what they're here for, to answer your questions. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Merci.
Thank you.
Merci tout le monde.